So we have with us Dr. Dinesh Abrol from the All India People's Science Network, or the AIPSN, the National Research Funding Bill 2023. The 72% of the funding will be coming from the private institutes. So how is private institutions or international organizations? So how is the government going to ensure that this portion goes into long-term issues like environment conservation, and then sustainability analysis, social sciences, etc. These issues are of no immediate benefit or economic profit to the private organizations. So, how will the government assure that these issues get their due research grants that they deserve?
See, the spectrum of R&D objective that needs to be covered is large, as you yourself indicated in your observation. Uh, 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 when there are multiple objectives, one has to be very clear that what part of funding would go to which objective as far as is concerned. I take the case that till now SERB, Science Engineering Research Board, has been funding largely science funding, I would call it, which are called scientific grants, the research grants for production of scientific knowledge or engineering knowledge at the most, much more scientific knowledge. Now, it has to now go into all the areas which you described where innovations are, expected. New, whether in the form of technologies or in the form of knowledge for regulation or knowledge for even promotion of these objectives, as you slightly stated, how would these corporates and philanthropies, international organizations treat it? There is evidence from the prior experience which people analyze. We have analyzed ourselves as far as concerned. They tend to treat these as mechanisms through which they can advance magic bullets, silver bullets, wider solutions for everything. And whether they create problems or not, let me give you three, four examples in this particular area. Well, see, take fortification of rice or biofortified crops. They are solution for Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, golden rice and all. They think that this is the solution for our nutrition problem, malnutrition, whereas we think that the malnutrition cannot be solved through, one or another magic bullet where you can get them like food as medicine, and there will be a solution. Take similar, so this is in health, for example, I have given you as an example. Second, the same thing is true for climate change. They think that they have certain solutions which they are trying, whether it's in carbon sequestration or so, or in other areas where, like renewables, for example. Take this. Now they will choose solutions which are giving them profits. And that's what the evidence is. Not necessarily sustainable solution, not the sustainable technologies that need to be developed in our own case. The socio-technical solutions which we would be looking forward to. Take example of agriculture. We have a lot of nitrogen use in efficiency challenge as far as it's concerned. It can be sorted out through a variety of means. Firstly, how we can use a balanced fertilizer, or we can reduce the consumption of urea by incorporating legumes, pulses into our intercropping system. But they won't be interested in those particular solutions because it doesn't give them, their profits. So the
Right.
research directions would be determined by them. And it would mean academic freedom, the academic autonomy of the institution would be adversely impacted. There is enough evidence. I have worked on health, pharmaceutical, similarly agriculture, nutrition, these areas precisely which you mentioned. These are really of societal, value, and public values involved in this require that we find appropriate solutions. And whereas they are interested in selling their products as far as it's concerned,
Right.
and they come towards the latter end of the chain. See, as far the research funding mechanisms in India are concerned, they do have shortcomings. There is no doubt about that. Uh, Number one, we need to keep in mind that we spend only 0.65% of our gross domestic product. Our gross economic, uh, our GRD, expenditure on R&D, is the lowest among the emerging economies compared to them, which have 2% to 3% of their GDP spending. We only spend 0.65%. So, and it has declined over the period since the reforms quite a lot. We had a target of 2%, and we have not been able to reach that target of 2% of GDP. So there is a major shortcoming at that end. There is another shortcoming. To whom do you allocate this particular money? Whatever money is available through public funding mechanisms, it has not been going to all the institutions in an equitable manner. For example, IITs, Indian Institutes of Technologies, and some of the institutes of national importance are the major recipients. Only 1% of our higher education institutions receive any public funding for R&D. Uh, Consequently, there is a need for a mechanism to be transformed, changed, and upgraded. Uh, so undoubtedly, when even SERB, the Science Engineering Research Board bill was coming up, I provided backup to quite a few of members of parliament, and at that time the minister did notice that some of the suggestions we had given were acceptable to him. But he said that the bill has been already moved in the parliament. Now I'm not going to, add your amendments, though they are good. So see, the key problem has been that the money has been very small, available from the public funding, but there was a problem of allocation. Now, what the NRF, the National Research Foundation Bill 2023 seeks to do is that it seeks to replace a public funding mechanism where there is certainty that what is the amount available from the budgetary sources with a mechanism where there is a lot of uncertainty. They are claiming that they would be mobilizing, the government is claiming that they would be mobilizing money from private sector as well as philanthropies. But there is no commitment given in the announcement till now, as it has been available to us, that how these commitments are going to be ensured. Are they going to be part of the CSR, let's say, and is there a percentage fixed? Does the bill have that particular provision so that it is a statutory provision? None of this, at least, thing is in the public domain. At least we do not know. And I've tried finding out. I have friends in these institutions and bodies where such decisions are in making, and they say we do not know as yet. The answer has been that. So there is a mechanism which is now going to be set up with the help of 50,000 crore over 5 years, which means 10,000 a year. And out of that, only, you know, 26 or 28% funds would be from the public sources.
Yes,
Rest of the
28%.
funding, 70 plus, 74% would be accessible through the private and corporate funding, which is not committed, which is not uncertain whether it will come through or not. So this is another problem. The next major problem, which I would like to disclose to the friends through Probe, that this particular mechanism which has so much dependence on corporates as well as on private funders and philanthropies, etc., would be influencing our research directions and our research policies in a very major way. See, as far as NRF is concerned, it's been there in discussion for quite some time. There is a detailed project report also available. You can see that on the Principal Scientific Advisor of website that is available. This innovation takes place through multiple sources of knowledge being brought together. They can be basic science, what is even coming from curiosity-oriented research. It can come from, experimental development. It can come from imported technology absorption and adaptation and improvement. And it comes to finally saying we innovate a product, means for the first time it is in use, it's in the market or is in public use. That's what we call it innovation. The innovation, and that is where operation research and implementation, which is where they come. Take the case of tuberculosis, for example. They've been involved in it for very long. Now they prefer certain kinds of solutions, and for long they were not even interested in TB. They were not interested in neglected diseases. We had to find a different mechanism. In the World Health Organization, we had to go for what is called the Global Strategy and Plan of Action on Public Health and Intellectual Property. So see, the autonomy of the institutions and of the nation is at stake in this particular case. Academic freedom can be impacted. Take the case of Boehringer Knoll and University of Mainz case. A recent case of Stanford president who was working on Alzheimer's disease along with the corporations, etc., has had to resign because manipulation of research that they want, the results that they want to have a say in the appointments, they want to have a say in the determination of objectives in the projects and so on, etc., and they determine the policies, including on teaching as far as concerned. What courses? Results which do not favor them, they are not interested in those particular results becoming favored. So science objectivity itself, the very value of science is at stake in this particular case. Unless you evolve strong defense mechanism within your system and in the institution, in fact, this private dependence, corporate dependence, philanthropic dependence is really not a welcome move at all. See, NRF was set up with the aim that state universities do not have enough funding. As I said, that 1% of our higher education entities are only doing research. Majority of these operate at the state level as far as it's concerned. Now, state councils of higher education, state governments are not involved. That was the weakness of the SCRP also. That's why only the IITs and institutions of national importance took many funds. So you have to have arrangements, you have to have professions, systems of allocation and decision making in which all these stakeholders are involved, but they aren't. At the moment, there is no evidence. It's going to be governed by decision making, which is highly centralized. Prime Minister and the two ministers of the union government level, Department of Science and Technology and the Ministry of Education. And the Prime Minister, it's a high amount of centralization. There's no, this centralization would again influence, which universities should be getting. People begin to call universities because they don't agree with the government as, anti-national. So then they will not receive projects. Then they will not be able to seek funds.
Coming to the centralization part again, sir, we have talked about privatization. You just mentioned the centralization part also. So many prominent researchers advocate that the decentralized mechanism that offered specialized and dedicated research funding providing organizations that were specific for different specific fields. Like there was Department of Pharmacy separately for issuing research and development grants for issues related to drugs. So there were different departments. They will now cease to exist. So what do you say? Which mechanism is a better option? The decentralized and the dedicated specific one, or this centralized one?
Saksham evidence is available that multiple sources of initiative are better than having one source of initiative, because all of us have biases. And the 15 wise men sitting among the scientists and engineers and some corporate fellows sitting there would have biases as far as it's concerned. That's why multiple sources of initiative are required. Now, but this that's not going to be the case. Many of the schemes of the Department of Science and Technology, which had separate existence, might get also merged with this. There's no clarity at the moment. Several possibilities exist in terms of decision making. The larger way forward is always joint planning, because central union sector government bringing in funds, mobilizing funds, welcome idea as far as it's concerned. But then how it should be allocated and should be distributed is a question which is very important and very relevant, as you have raised it. And I think it's a, in fact, the Standing Committee on Science and Technology, Environments and Forests should discuss all these issues in great degree of detail, invite all of us, and we have a lot of experience. We can give evidence on this way, that how uh, uh, funding, public funding, in fact, should be increased. India, the government of India should have increased far more funding. It should have actually, from its own side, at least instead of 10,000 crore, which has decided to put, it should be 3 to 4 times of this as far as it's concerned. Yeah, you put, and it can be easily done if you're wanting to reach the target of 2% of GDP from 0.6%, but you have far more resources which you can allocate, etc. We're talking of that's a target which the three science, technology, innovation policies since 2003 onwards, 2003, 2013, and 2000 now 20. All of them have indicated that it should be 2%, more than 2% and 2% of GDP. Government is not willing to implement its own policies.
The top leadership of this and National Research Funding Board will be the Prime Minister will be the ex officio chairman, the Minister of Education and Minister of Science and Technology. So the top leadership is entirely formed of political figures instead of researchers. So how is the government going to like how is this bill going to be free from political influence? How that can be ensured? This is a
No,
major
there are
question.
researchers in the executive mechanism, but if the file has to go and be signed in the PMO office, the
Exactly.
influences are very much. We know that this is not desirable at all. Science and its relationship with the state should be one of autonomy being given from the contract is to deliver public value, and scientists should do that. They should be evaluated for that. Evaluation mechanisms can be put in, but every decision to be vetted by the PMO office does not make sense. But if you're really wanting the political leadership to do its job, they should mobilize actually money from the various
Right.
ministries which are under the PM. They're
Hmm.
not doing that. In fact, in my 2008 study on financing of science and technology, at that time showed 50% of the money used to come from in public funding from the economic ministries and line departments such as health and so on, etc. Today, that's not the case. In fact, that funding has reduced considerably because and then you are relying far more on consultants like or international foundations as well. They are determined. Our public users are not determining the priorities and directions of research and innovation as far as concerned. That's a matter of serious concern. That scientists also then who are going to be taking decisions, they are going to sit with the corporates and private funding. They will adjust with them, because those who pay also make you sing the tune as is concerned. That is what is likely to happen to scientists. We know it happens. They're very much the case. And scientists are one always afraid and scared because they can't do without labs. They are dependent on funds, and they don't speak out as a result, and they even can adjust very much. That's why all the safeguards which are necessary in the mechanism to ensure autonomy and freedom and appropriate research directions include and that the science also continues as far as is concerned is at stake. And this is what the challenge is.
How do you see the future of research and development in India? What alternative uh, is there which can resolve this issue of lack of research grants permanently for the researchers?
As I pointed out, that the very idea of you know, uh, reflecting critically on the bill, because many of the write-ups which had come up were largely, laudatory and just mere statements saying, "Very good, some money will come now." But
Hmm.
people were required to apply their mind, and we thought that people who have understood and we have been really observing and monitoring the scene should intervene, and that's why we intervene. See, we have 1/5 of what China has in terms of per million researchers. So we have even lesser than US and South Korea and Japan. So researchers do research. Researchers need funds. If researchers themselves are not there, and 45% of our researchers are anyway working for the US companies, sitting in Noida, they are employed by the private foreign corporations, like Bosch or Cisco, or name the ICT companies which use, our engineers. All our institutions are geared to that, meaning their brightest minds either go to California or they work for here from to companies California. Public funding for our own nation, science for our nation was the objective with which the Indian research councils were created, higher education institutions were created. And we know that the world has changed. We have always expected the world to change. It was not going to be, a globalized world providing equity to everybody. We knew that. And when the day China emerged, the US-China rivalry has emerged as far as it's concerned. If you emerge as a competitor, many of these profit-making corporations, transnational corporations, philanthropies, they would withdraw their hand, their support. You have to stand on your own feet. And if our slogan is Atmanirbhar Bharat, one of the critical condition is National Research Foundation or public research funding mechanism should be strengthened in such a manner that the nation gets strengthened.